Hello, you're kicking off the Friday's edition of Qpvn English News Bulletin with Milinji and income deadlines. Party General Secretary Tola meets with revolutionary contributors. Vietnam and Turkey advance defense industry cooperation. Vietnam and China strengthen education cooperation. Marking the 78th anniversary of Wounded Veterans and Martyrs Day, July the 27th, on July the 24th in Hanoi, delegations from the Party, State, National Assembly, Government, the Vietnam Fatherland Front, and the Central Military Commission Ministry of National Defense led rest at the monument to heroes and martyrs on Buxton Street and paid respects at President Ho Chi Minh's mausoleum. The party and state delegation included General Secretary To Lam, President Lương Cường, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính, and other current and former leaders. General Trịnh Văn Quyết, chairman of the General Political Department of the Vietnam People's Army, also joined the delegation. The Central Military Commission Ministry of National Defense delegation was led by General Phan Văn Giang, Minister of National Defense, with leaders from the Ministry of National Defense, the General Staff, and the General Political Department. Following the tribute at the monument, the delegation led rest and entered the mausoleum to honor President Ho Chi Minh. In a solemn atmosphere, the delegation expressed profound gratitude to President Ho Chi Minh and heroic martyrs who sacrificed for national independence, freedom, and the people's happiness. Revolutionary contributors are the country's priceless assets, a sacred symbol of patriotism and Vietnamese values that was stressed by Party General Secretary To Lam at a meeting with exemplary revolutionary contributors held on July the 24th. Vietnam currently has over 9.2 million people recognized for their contributions and services to the revolution, including more than 1.2 million martyrs, nearly 140,000 Vietnamese heroic mothers, over 600,000 wounded veterans, and millions of others, such as relatives of martyrs, former prisoners of war, and chemical warfare victims. The party, state, and people have long prioritized care and support for these individuals, with their quality of life now significantly improved. Speaking at the event, Party General Secretary To Lam emphasized that caring for revolutionary contributors is the sacred duty guided by President Ho Chi Minh's teachings. He reaffirmed the party's and state's commitment to easing their burdens and improving their well-being. The country's continued development is the most meaningful contribute to those who sacrifice for the nation's freedom and prosperity. He urged all levels and sectors to effectively implement party resolutions on this work, ensure timely, fair responses to contributors' needs, and accelerate efforts to locate and repatriate the remains of fallen soldiers. Alongside increasing state funding, he called for broader social engagement and resource mobilization. Localities must create favorable conditions for wounded soldiers, martyrs' families, and contributors to continue contributing to society. Urgently reaching flood-isolated areas in Nghệ An and promptly assisting affected people was the directive from Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính, head of the National Civil Defense Steering Committee, as he chaired the committee's first meeting on natural disaster prevention and search and rescue for 2025. The session was held on July the 25th in both in-person and online formats. The meeting, decision number 1585, dated July 23, 2025, was announced, restructuring the Naval Civil Defense Steering Committee by merging the National Committee for Disaster Prevention and Control and the National Committee for Incident, Disaster Response and Search and Rescue. The new structure aims to ensure inter-agency coordination and provide strategic advice to the government on civil defense nationwide. It also directly oversees civil defense command units at both ministerial and provincial levels. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính serves at the head of the committee, with the Ministry of National Defense as its standing body.
Thay mặt cho
On behalf of Party General Secretary Tô Lâm and Party and state leaders, I extend the deepest condolences to families affected by recent disasters, especially those who lost loved ones in the sinking of the VIET 58 vessel in Hạ Long entering storm number 3. I also want to express sympathy to residents of remote communes in Nghệ An suffering historic flood damage. The Prime Minister emphasized that the need to further disseminate the law on civil defense and improve the structure of the community in line with a two-tier local government system. The immediate priority is to search and rescue those cut off by flooding in Nghệ An and address the storm's aftermath. He also urged heads of military sectors and localities to uphold their responsibilities in civil defense and strengthen the role of grassroots authorities in applying the fall on the spot principle effectively. During his visit to Turkiyye for the 2025 International Defense Industry Fair, Senior Lieutenant General Hoàng Xuân Chiến, the Minister of National Defense of Vietnam, met with Mr. Haluk Gogun, President of Turkiyye Defense Industry Agency. Mr. Gogun expressed his pleasure in welcoming the Vietnamese delegation, emphasizing that cooperation with Vietnam is a priority in Turkiyye's Asia-focused policy. As a body under the President of Turkiyye, Turkiyye Defense Industry Agency is ready to expand collaboration with Vietnam in line with both nations' political ties and mutual interests. Senior Lieutenant General Hoàng Xuân Chiến highly appreciated the development of Turkiyye's defense industry and called for continued exchange to explore practical areas of cooperation that match each side's capabilities. On the same day, Vietnam's VIET Group and Turkiyye Reup signed a meeting minute, reaffirming their shared commitment to strengthen technical exchanges, enhance cooperation, and work towards concrete outcomes in 2025. The 60th founding anniversary of the Air Defense Missile Force, July the 24th, 1965-2025, was marked in Hanoi on July the 24th. The celebration was made even more special as it was awarded the First-Class Fatherland Protection Order, one of the highest orders bestowed by the party and state. Senior Lieutenant General Nguyễn Văn Hiền, the Minister of National Defense, attended and delivered remarks. Formed amid the fierce U.S. bombing campaign against North Vietnam, the missile troops quickly proved their courage, intellect, and combat readiness. On July 24, 1965, Regiment 236 shot down the first U.S. F-4C aircraft, signaling the start of a victorious era for the so-called Vietnam Fire Dragons. With the spirit of daring to fight, knowing how to fight, determined to win, the missile troops fought thousands of engagements during the resistance war, shooting down hundreds of enemy aircraft, including 29 B-52 bombers, making decisive contribution to the historic 1972 Hanoi Điện Biên Phủ in the air victory, which forced the U.S. to sign the Paris Peace Accords and end the war in Vietnam. Each B-52 carried 30 tons of bombs and deployed dense jamming. Our missile troops had to cut through the noise and identify and strike the enemy. That's how we won. In peacetime, the missile troops have maintained a spirit of self-reliance and innovation, actively improving training and combat readiness, especially in adapting to new forms of high-tech warfare. They remain a powerful strike force and a core pillar of the people's air defense culture. The enemy might attack using stealth aircraft, cruise missiles, UAVs, or even hypersonic weapons, small, fast, and hard to detect or intercept. We can't rely solely on existing systems. We are overhauling combat strategy, modernizing missile system, building a multi-layered air defense network, preparing for fast, flexible responses, always ready, never caught off guard. Delivering a keynote at the ceremony, Senior Lieutenant General Nguyễn Văn Hiền emphasized that the missile troops' heroic victories are powerful proof of the effectiveness of the People's War strategy and the distinctive air defense art of the Vietnam People's Army. In today's context, he called on the Air Defense Air Force Service and the missile troops in particular to sharpen combat readiness, master advanced weaponry, and creatively detect and respond to aerial threats, ensuring the skies of the fatherland remain firmly protected. On July the 24th, a fleet of Indian Navy ships, including the destroyer NISD, the anti-submarine corvette Kitten, and the fleet tanker Shakti, arrived in Da Nang for a friendly port call. During their stay, the crew paid correspondents or leaders of the Da Nang People's Committee, Military Reason 5 and Naval Reason 3. They also played volleyball with local naval officers and toured city landmarks. Before departing, the Indian fleet will hold a joint at-sea exercise with Vietnam's Naval Reason 3. The visit strengthens defense ties ahead of the 10th anniversary of the Vietnam-India Comprehensive Strategic Partnership and supports maritime freedom and regional security. Coming up next, Vietnam and China strengthen education cooperation. AI boom among Vietnamese startups. On July the 24th in Hanoi, Chinese Ambassador Xiong Bao presented admission letters to 34 Vietnamese students accepted into Chinese universities for the 2025-2026 academic year, including 4 PhD, 7 masters, and 23 undergraduate students, many at top institutions. The ambassador expressed hope that they could gain knowledge and experience to contribute to Vietnam's development and strengthen the friendship between the two countries. In recent years, education has been a bright spot in Vietnam-China ties, with student exchanges, scholarships, and joint training programs helping improve higher education and deepen bilateral cooperation. As one of the potential technology fields, artificial intelligence is increasingly attracting not only technology giants but also many Vietnamese startups. The AI Economy report, jointly published by the National Innovation Center and the Japan International Cooperation Agency, assessed that Vietnam currently ranks second among the leading countries in Southeast Asia in terms of the number of startups and investment capital focused on AI, reflecting the growing interest in applying this technology. Recently, AI Hey, a platform combining social networking and generative AI developed by a Vietnamese engineer, announced the completion of Series A funding round with a total amount of $10 billion. It is a big event in the technology world when Vietnamese startups have made their mark in a very promising technology field, artificial intelligence. It's also the testament to the remarkable figures recently published in the AI Economy report published by the NIC and JICA. In detail, in 2024, Vietnam ranked second among the leading countries in Southeast Asia in terms of the number of startups and investment capital focused on AI, reflecting the growing interest in AI applications. We have the opportunity to develop AI application for the Vietnamese market, as the core of AI is still based on data. Even large corporations cannot have all the data about Vietnamese people or Vietnamese consumer behavior, so that is an opportunity for Vietnamese startups. Vietnam has a strong position in the global AI race. In addition to strategic orientations, the Vietnamese government should come up with more practical support measures. The government needs to promote investment in technology infrastructure, facilitate the development of open-source data, and support market access. JICA believes that Vietnam's human resources can make use of this support and create made-in-Vietnam products that are internationally competitive. The AI report predicts that by 2040, the AI economy will reach some $130 billion. The innovative startup community is considered one of the important driving forces of this economy. However, experts believe that this community is still waiting for a big enough push from policy to see more unicorns. Therefore, it's necessary to expand acceleration programs for AI startups, and there should be special support policies in place for existing businesses in terms of finance and law, thereby forming an innovative AI ecosystem. It's the end of the news bulletin today. You can watch the news again at qpvn.vn. Goodbye and see you again.